Okay. Good morning, everyone. How are we doing? Compliments of the season. Please, can you confirm you can hear me by typing a Y in the chat box, please? All right. Fantastic. 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 So compliments of the season and Happy New Year in advance. So this morning we intend to spend the next 1 hour or less discussing some of the top IT risk experience this year, the challenges, how we have managed them. And then we'll try and pivot into 2024 to envisage what the IT risk landscape will look like, such that we are better prepared to manage them. Excuse me. Okay, but before we get into all of that, a bit of a brief. Let me bit of a dive into who we are, especially for those of us who are just joining for this first time. We are a community of tech risk practitioners who are in various stages of our careers, from entry level up to the senior management, right? Our core objectives are to support each other in developing and growing our careers. We also aim to raise industry thought leaders, right, from this community. Again, we try to meet these objectives by um, holding monthly knowledge sharing sessions. For those of us who have been with us for a while, we try to do this monthly. Sometimes we miss out, but we are hoping that 2024 will be a better year. We also serve as a talent pipeline or a hub for tech practitioners. So we share job opportunities. Recruiters reach out to us for talents because we've got a pool of them in this community. We also engage in meaningful on-the-job conversations to support members on their jobs and again enrich their knowledge base. We provide mentorship as well, right, for folks new to tech or are looking to make a career change, right? So we are largely driven by a mantra that we rise by lifting others is non-profit. So um, yeah, that's a brief about us. So this is our agenda. We'll do a bit of an introduction. We look at some of the top IT risk in 2023, and then we dive into our panel conversation. Okay, I think there's a bit of a feedback. Let's see where's that coming from. Maybe someone is making use of. Okay, all right, that's fine. So we have often said on this platform that for any institution that is looking to scale its operations or drive efficiency in its operations, such institution is likely going to leverage tech to do so. Now, if you leverage tech, that in itself comes with risks that we need to manage, especially if the institution is interested in remaining a going concern. And so that's where we come in as tech risk practitioners to help manage this risk. So be you in IT operations, be you in cybersecurity, IT sales, you're a developer, project manager, CIO, CTO, whatever domain you play in, you're a tech risk practitioner, and the risks within your operations needs to be managed, right? So this morning we've got 4 panelists. Again, seasoned practitioners solving tech risk-related problems at scale in their respective industries and organizations. And we're extremely privileged to have them join us, share practical experience on how they have largely succeeded in managing some of this tech-related risk in 2023, right? So our first panelist is Anthony. He is no stranger to the house. Anthony is a GRC consultant based in Canada. He consults for government and non-government institutions like banks, etc. Our second panelist is Nkiruka. She prefers to be called NK. She's a director with PwC and she leads the cybersecurity practice there, right? She's quite passionate about mentoring women, supporting women in information security. So for those of us that are women, and I'm hoping that she will also extend that to men as well, right? Our third panelist is Shay. He is a divisional head with one of the fintech unicorns in Nigeria, Interswitch, where he leads the IT audit function. And our fourth panelist is my boss, a mentor and a friend, Dr. Harrison Naji. He's the group CISO with First Bank, a tier one bank with operations in Nigeria, several African countries, and the UK. So a big thanks to our panelists for finding the time to be part of this conversation this morning. My name is Tony, and I'm your host for today's session. Okay, so we put out a survey 3 weeks ago, again, to get a sense of some of the predominant technology risks tech and business folks in their respective organizations experienced in 2023. And these are the results of that survey. So I'll start with you, Dr. Harrison. What are your thoughts on the survey results? Will you say they reflect reality? Are there risks that you would have ranked ahead of what you see?
All right, thank you. Can you confirm you can hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, compliments and thanks again for the good work you're doing, trying to engineer this process. Okay. I think this the outcome of this survey is fair, very fair in terms of the pervasiveness of certain kind of risk in these domains. Okay. But there are risks that have not been captured well here. Okay, and that will be if you look at a supply chain risk. Okay, even though I see a third party risk here, but you can delineate supply chain risk from third party risk. Okay, we also beginning to see an increase on what we call the emerging technology related risk. Okay. And it's still nascent in its form, but it's growing. So emerging technology risk is another key risk. So we're talking about AI related risk, machine learning algorithm related risk. Then there's also another risk that I do not think it's captured other people risk. Do you understand? But it's in the category of insider risk. Okay. Even though people risk and insider risk, you can't co-join them, but insider risk in its own has grown horns and should be captured and given that adequacy of recognition. You understand? Because it's not a risk you deal with awareness. People risk are usually consequence and awareness. Insider risk is a bit more pervasive and can also be stealth in the sense that it's being done with knowledge. Okay, most times. So, but otherwise, this is very reflective. I know that things like phishing will be captured under social engineering. Ransomware continues to be a major risk. And things like cloud-related risk, misconfiguration, and other things should have a higher ranking because of the decrease the race to the cloud. Okay.
mm,
But otherwise, in terms of what we've dealt with in 2023, this is a fair outcome. Okay. Just in addition to the other comments that I have put forward. In terms of people remain a major weak point. Okay, so it's also good that it's captured in red, in the red. But when you take people, you can break it up in several forms. Even every other kind of risk can be eventually connected back to people and practices. Okay. So, but I'll stop here so others can speak to it also. Thank you.
okay, okay. Thank you. Fantastic. Yeah. Indeed, indeed. People risk is multifaceted from talent shortage issues to uh, errors and insider threats like you mentioned. I think we just batched up people risk. The same thing we did with the supply chain. We batched them up under third party and some of the phishing and ransomware, we batched them under social engineering. In Kiruka, any thoughts again on the top risks before we get into the panel conversation?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. And good morning, everyone. Um,
Mm,
I totally agree with what Dr. Harrison said. I like the fact that we have people risk at the top,
mm,
because from where I sit, what I've seen happen across industries, we're having things across, like talent risk, where you have an entire team even leave an organization with the training that they've done,
mm,
and the organization is left with no one.
mm,
They have to outsource some of the work that they need to do in the cyber team. So
mm,
yes, people risk is at the top. I'll also mention ransomware. I know we ransomware wasn't really captured there.
mm,
Um, Ransomware is an issue that we see. Business email compromise. So if you put them in the bucket like other cyber threats, ransomware, third party, business email compromise, those are top concerns across industries. And I believe that they will likely persist in 2024. Um, when we talk about emerging technologies, um, this is also a big concern. So while technologies like AI offer tremendous opportunities, they also introduce new vulnerabilities. So we're having things like AI for deepfakes,
mhm,
and then I'm sure, right? I believe that this will undoubtedly continue in 2024. We're seeing cyber criminals use ChatGPT to generate a mammoth increase in malicious phishing emails.
mm,
So we believe that that would also continue. For geopolitical uncertainty, I didn't see us capture that,
mm,
but that also has affected some organizations, especially those that have different organizations or subsets across, you know, like regions like Africa. You can have like an organization that has 22 jurisdictions and the likes. So the heightened global risk has also led to increased cybercrime,
mm,
cyber attacks. So, for example, when the Ukraine war started, across organizations with different subsets and regions where they operate, we
mhm,
saw disruptions in internet connectivity. We also saw heightened risk of ransomware attacks and phishing scams too. So I think geopolitical uncertainty is one thing I didn't really see there, but it also
yeah.
sort of affects, yes, organizations,
Okay.
affected organizations in 2023. Yeah,
Okay. Okay.
thank you.
Interesting. Yeah. We didn't capture among the, so we had about 20 risks. These are just top 10 as it were. But yes, we didn't capture geopolitical risks. Thank you for that. And I'll come back to Dr. Harrison. Considering some of the lessons from 2023, what specific cybersecurity strategies or practices do you believe will be crucial for organizations to adopt in 2024. And the thinking is, when you look at the evolving threat landscape, how can they build resilience, right, in 2024?
Okay, thanks. Another very insightful question. But for me, I think I always say first, you cannot secure what you do not know. Okay? And you cannot adequately secure what has not been assessed. You understand? So the first principle remains, which is assess your assets, identify your assets, okay? And try as much as possible to make that identification process comprehensive. So you need to know whether you have access on the cloud, you need to have whether you have resources on people's systems. You need to do that. That's the first thing that needs to be done. Where you can assess those assets. To know, for example, do I have PII on people's laptops? Do I have PII on cloud environments? That's also key. When you do, depending on your industry, depending on your size, depending on your business aspirations, depending on your practices, depending on your level of maturity, you begin to look at the risk, cyber risk you're exposed to. Check the risk you're exposed to. Okay. My industry exposed to ransomware? Are we exposed to third-party risk? Are we exposed to insider threat? Are we exposed to this? Then look at the controls you already have in place. Okay, controls you already have in place. And then look at what we call the residual risk. Begin to now build a strategy or refresh the existing strategy to mitigate them. Technology is usually not the best first response to cyber risk. It's not acquisition of technologies, it's understanding. And that understanding may require to refresh the people first. I mean, the mantra of change the people before you make the change still stands. Okay. It may require you to refresh the people, which means that the people that will lead that transformation, that will lead that advancement, need advancement themselves. Okay. Then there are practices today that are working. Okay. There are practices today. Remember, I said, depending on your size, the nature of your business, your industry, your organizational culture, your practices, your aspirations, and the kind of data you process. So it's not a one size fits all. Even the kind of scheme, working scheme you have. Do you have on-prem? Do you have remote work? Is it hybrid? Do you have cloud resources? Do you have everything in the cloud where you begin to face like misconfiguration risk? Do you have things on-prem where you continue to face some of the traditional risks? Are you adopting emerging technologies? So you need to step back and check. Once you do and you're able to assess your current position, then you begin to understand where you still have gaps and now begin to position both policies, both procedures, both technologies, both people against this risk. Okay, that's very key. But at the end of the day, it's not a technology response. It's also not a people response. It may be a combination of a number of things or practices. Even in terms of growing the culture of the organization will be required for you to adequately mitigate. But I will end by saying you cannot protect what you do not know. So if you have blind spots within your ecosystem, understand that your ecosystem is no longer your network. Your ecosystem is everywhere you have the resource, your resource sitting. People's systems, cloud environment, third-party environments, partners, and all that become your standard ecosystem. And we've stated that you are no longer as weak as the weakest point. You're as weak as the weakest organization you trust or you're connected to. So that becomes the expanded ecosystem. And then taking steps, once you have understanding, taking steps becomes easier because you can now have a combination of factors from processes to practices to technologies to be able to adequately do that. And again, I will say it's a journey. It's a journey. So you need to put a program of work to say, okay, this is how we will start. This is the ones we can do now, the ones we need to do later, and have a way to measure it. So you are sure you are achieving the kind of outcome. And take into consideration stakeholders, take into consideration the legacy state of your environment, because certain things you may want to do, you may not be able to do because of other things that are already resisting that change within the ecosystem. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Doctor. I think one core thing I'm taking away from what you've said is that you can't secure what you don't know exists, and it's just crucial that we and it's foundational that we understand the kind of assets we have in our environment. And that thing you've said is that the acquisition of tools cannot be the first response to cyber threats. We still see instances where that is the case. You know, we feel that our maturity is measured based on the kind of fancy tools we have to deal with issues. And that's not to say that acquisition of tools are a bad thing in itself, but there is a process to that acquisition. There are certain things that needs to be done before we get there. Shay, do you want to add anything to what the doctor has said in terms of strategies that organizations need to start looking at to build resilience, cyber resilience come 2024?
Okay, okay. Once again, good morning, everyone, and compliments to everyone. Am I audible, please, Tony?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. So, first, I would say strategies and practices. I feel when you talk after Dr. Harrison has summarized everything in the word, but I want to pick one or two things from where I see it. What I would say, I'll start with cybersecurity strategies and practices. There's something that I picked as learning in 2023 that if we can fortify, it will help us in 2024. The understanding of ecosystem, buttressing what Dr. Harrison has said, comes from the angle of you knowing what your organization is, as well as knowing what your assets are, as they are saying. But there's something around this deviation where the information security or cybersecurity domain of every organization have this drift towards zero trust architecture that are probably technical and with few documentations in policy, but does not involve combined assurance. So the strategy may be there, that I know all my endpoints, I know what my segmentations are, I know where my assets sit, but how have I been able to integrate that combined assurance? Where I say it is no longer zero trust architecture, knowing where they are. It's not a zero trust framework where I have the operational leg, the risk leg, probably the internal control, all lines of models fixed into that zero trust framework, where I can say, I've done the risk assessment of all, everywhere this asset sits, and I know my exposures and I know the controls in place. It's not a static document, it's a working document. And I also know where the controls are built in place, that I have responsibilities of that shared responsibilities in my zero trust model built into that framework, not administrative in this context. It can be evaluated. That before my last line, the auditor or anybody comes to audit, I've already built in this risk profile for people that are on hybrid, on cloud, whatever position I have, those assets sit in. And the framework works end to end across all lines of models. It helps, it brings that completeness to what can treat things around asset inventory, people risk, even social engineering, because it comes with that bottled module. What else do I want to say? There is this shift from the products that we see to every organization. Every organization usually would have a product-led kind of strategy, where we have minimum viable products we sell to customers. So why can't we now start having these cybersecurity strategies or practices as a service, the internal control that we built into this product as a service, audit as a service, internal control as a service, embedded in our minimum viable products? How do I mean? So I have AWS, for example. We've been talking about artificial intelligence, we've been talking about machine learning. Do you understand that when you log onto all these platforms, you see that there are modules with 1001 services that I have on AWS? I have AI and ML that are built, that are piped into security features where there are real benchmarks for lists, for all those things. Same way you can do for transactional, you can do for all those things. So I have a product as an entity that I sell to customers. I don't wait till my auditors come. The R&D that needs to learn my use cases that I need to build into an internet banking module would have a module for audit, would have a module for information security, would have a module for cyber, and it pipes to the use cases built into those AI, pipes into your own dashboard to know how things are going on the go. It's just a full-blown suite where we need to now sit on top of those minimum viable products that we sell to have a complete governance around that paradigm. I think that's the only thing around the ecosystem that I would like to add amidst of others. Thank you.
And I'm going to come back to, because what I hear you say is, in summary, is kind of building a culture of security in the organization, embedding culture across product development and across all your processes. But before we go to that, you are an auditor, and you discover that if you look at this chart, poor inventory features prominently as part of the top risks institutions still struggle with, right? Dr. Harrison talked about the fact that you cannot protect what you don't know exists. What, in your opinion, is the reason why we still have institutions struggle with asset inventory, being able to identify their asset? Because you see, indeed, it's a foundational issue, but it still persists. How can organizations better manage this risk, in your opinion? And I'll come to you, Anthony, because I'll need you. You are also a consultant. You'll be able to, you've seen these issues across. You should be able to speak to it as well.
Okay, so thank you. It's a very insightful question, and I'll come from the angle four spheres of organizations that we have that are possibly seen from experience. So it's either the problem an organization have. Problem one could be that it's an inventory or housekeeping of those inventory are done manually. So we have people have to go manually to know where those endpoints are. That's problem one. Problem two are people that are semi-automated. So I have something that manages my database estate, but I don't have something that manages other kind of assets. The other one are fully automated, but they don't have the right use cases to cover all the ecosystem that Dr. Harrison, that knowing your environment to be sure that you know everything. Then the one that seems perfect from experience or a project that I've worked with is having a life cycle of inventory management. So to sum it up, it depends on you identifying the problem to say, what level am I? Are we keeping this inventories? Are we sorting for them manually? Is it a semi-automated kind of approach that we are using? And where are my blind spots? Then have I used the right use cases, or have I made sure everything around inventory life cycle have been plugged into a tool? So the best way that I can say is automating inventory and asset management. And your inventory and housekeeping approach to all these endpoints is as good as how you manage them. From onboarding, like supply chain risk that was highlighted by Dr. Harrison, you won't believe it that some inventory management systems that I've seen can, even for things that it's not only on live IPs. So from even purchase, I already have a barcode of what is in the store that will eventually come and sit on my infrastructure. From a laptop point of view, from whatever endpoint, a server, a printer, as it's coming to the store, there's a register that keeps on that tool what supply chain has done, even talking to all those customers, because I know the end game is that this is going to have a live IP in the environment. So feeding from that onboarding, supply chain wise, before it becomes live, positioning it, and the last one would now be evaluation and monitoring. It still comes back to that combined assurance. What module of my inventory management system have I put into continuous auditing to say, as long as I have this, there is a particular second line operational part of the business that helps me sweep the environment, maybe information security, to know inventories or live IPs that have been decommissioned or onboarded and have not been onboarded on the particular automation. So it's about managing that life cycle and making sure that those life cycles are well onboarded on the automated tool that you use. As long as you are within the, I'm not totally rubbishing the manual way, but my ideology is we cannot use a manual or semi-automated approach of IT asset or inventory housekeeping with things that when we know we are digital. That's just the basic truth about it. Thank you.
Okay. I think Ernest kind of alludes to some of the comments you made. He said that the issue is that organizations do not even know what constitutes an asset, or so I may use this to mean how are we tracking software, how are we tracking some of the components that are even involved in the software that you build, because again, from a software angle, you see instances where certain components that have been used to build the software has reached end of life, but even the people who are managing it are not even aware of that, and yes, there might be some limit to how manual, there might be some limit to how you can intervene in terms of IT inventory manually. Those struggles are likely to be there. Anthony, you want to say something?
Yes, so thanks for having me. I'll quickly jump to the topic. So I hear manual, but again, I think when we're talking about managing assets inventory, manual methods are usually utilized by small scale or medium scale organizations. Most enterprise or big organizations are moved into automating their asset inventory. Of course, manual is prone to human errors, not real time, should I say, updates, right? Updating the record. But there are other things that also, other issues that cause improper asset inventory, right? You're talking about not having that adequate process. What is your asset life cycle from when the asset is acquired and to the point where the asset is retired, right? Is that process standardized? Is it standardized across the organization, or is it in silo, right? You're talking about standardization. How do you capture your inventory, your assets on the tool itself? The naming convention. This always causes duplicates or should I say confusion, right? When you are capturing the same asset using different names. Visibility in terms of if you are a large organization and you have locations, subsidiaries everywhere, right? Is the tool centralized and well integrated in order to capture all the assets within that region, or within your work your region of operation, right? And there's some other issues talking about business activities like mergers and acquisition, when you have this kind of things and you don't really, should I say, integrate your asset inventory with whatever organization you're merging with, that again will lead to a lot of improper, or should I say, confusion in terms of your asset inventory. So yeah, I think these are basically the root cause or the major issues when you see improper or improperly managed asset inventory. And most organization, I've not even seen any organization that is not suffering from one form of should I say, issue in terms of managing their assets, either some improper standardization of naming convention or improper asset life cycle. Everybody is struggling, so you have to continue to revisit that process, right? It's a continuous process. Continue to revisit that process, continue to train to ensure that everybody's aware of, everybody knows what to do in terms of asset management life cycle. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Because clearly this is a blind spot, and without it, really, it could undermine your entire cybersecurity program, right? Okay. I don't know, for those of us who may have questions, this will be a good time to drop them in the chat box. So we will come back to them as soon as possible. We are almost running out of time. We want us to stick to the 1 hour we planned for this session. Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Doctor.
Let me just make a comment on asset inventory.
Okay.
And I like the question that was posted in the chat, which is, what is an asset? You understand? Organizations are still struggling with what an asset is. I mean, naturally, the natural meaning is an asset is anything that is of value. Yeah, anything that has value to you is an asset. Okay. So let me give you an example. In some organization, assets are managed at the physical layer. Okay. So we bought a server. How many servers have we bought? Okay. Do we have a VM infrastructure? Okay. So when you go to that physical, the organization is able to give you, we have 20 laptops, we have 300 desktops, okay? But that's not digital assets, okay? Because the VMware could be running 200 virtual machines, okay? Now, the digital asset inventory is where organizations are even struggling more, okay? Because now they're not tracking the digital asset. And if you look at the process of provisioning, prior to now, people are able to be process-driven in asset creation. So you want to set up a server, okay? You have people that will go through the process, harden it, then add it to the inventory, then set it up. But if you look at provisioning server in the cloud environment or the VM infrastructure, it's 5-minute job. Do you understand? And the person, the admin, can start and finish that, and that is not included. Another major issue that I have seen from practice is this issue of concurrent service provisioning. So you have a system that is running, okay? Then you implement another system. Then you say, oh, because I need to migrate users, let's continue to maintain these two systems for a while, okay? Then suddenly the second system continues to work and nobody cares about the first system anymore. So it's there as legacy, it's still on, it's powered, and nobody's giving attention to it because the second system is running. So that's, which is asset decommissioning. It's another major thing that I have seen. That acquisition is there as another major issue. Now, when it comes to third-party co-hosting, that's another major challenge. Do you understand? So you have a third party or a governance like a CBN hosting servers in your environment, but it's not captured in your inventory. Do you understand? And it's not under their own complete security control. So you can create a digital gap also in that area. So these are just additional things I wanted to to add. So we should first define what an asset is. At what level should I manage it? If I'm doing serverless, for example, how do I manage my assets? You understand? So if I'm in a cloud environment, how do I manage my asset? How do I take inventory of my asset? And how do I holistically assess my digital assets and delete it from the physical asset that Fincon or other segment of the organization may keep? Shadow IT is another major issue. Yeah. Shadow IT, where people begin to run parallel IT, buy things by themselves, provision things by themselves, and not bother about following the laid down process. Thank you. Just to add that to what I've been said.
Thank you, Doctor. So maybe to end, so it means that are we supposed to now run digital assets inventory management as a program on its own? You know, because it appears that you see instances where people just handle this stuff in silos. So there is no coordinated approach to how digital assets is being managed. Doctor, you want to speak to that?
I will. So whether it's, I think not really about whether it should run as a program, but should be given a recognition. Do you understand? It should be given a recognition. It should be defined, and that responsibility should be clarified. Okay. In some organization, example, if you were chasing an asset, you can go to 3 or 4 different functions. Okay, because Fincon is keeping physical assets because they're running depreciation. Do you understand? That's the only interest in depreciation. How do I depreciate the asset? Okay. The IT is running because they need to provision services. UpRisk is running because they want to do DR test and business continuity. So people approach asset management from their biased positions, but it has to be taken in such a way that someone is accountable across the organization so there can be asset harmonization. CISO is running asset because he wants to do security. Actually, the one that is more interested in digital assets so that they don't create blind spots within the organization. But it's something that organizations need to understand, that the physical asset and the digital asset both has to be evaluated, and you have to have a continuous way to measure and manage and do discovery, asset discovery. Okay, because of the rate of provisioning that is possible to do. But like I said, it has to be recognized as a major issue that needs to be dealt with on a continuous basis. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. Insightful. So looking ahead into 2024 and some of the stuff we're talking about, I think the doctor had mentioned, even Nkiru had mentioned some of them when they were speaking. Looking ahead into 2024 and based on trends, you know, results from our survey suggest that these are some of the risks that will dominate 2024, and so we need to look out for them. A lot has been said about cyber-related risks. I want us to look at people risk, right? And yes, well, the doctor had alluded to it again. Nkiru, I'll need you to, again, and this is looking at your exposure to various industries. Pre and post-COVID, people risk appears to be a sticky issue. And as it has been alluded, it's a multifaceted one too. Whether you're looking at it from being a major contributor to cyber breaches or from a talent management angle, right? Again, I think all of that even got exacerbated post-COVID. It's often said that culture eats strategy for breakfast, meaning that even if you have a good strategy and you purchase these fancy cyber tools, I don't have any issue with purchasing cyber tools anyway. The capacity of your cybersecurity program to be undermined remains high with a workforce that practices poor cyber hygiene, right? In other words, we're saying that organizations need to build a strong security culture to run an effective cybersecurity program. So our question is, how can organizations promote a strong security culture?
Okay, that's a very interesting question. So from what I've seen, the experience I've had on, diverse projects, I see that executive sponsorship, like leadership from the top, is very, very important. So leadership at the top, that's what we need to do. It needs to be visible to top management. They need to set that tone at the top for the entire organization. And all this should be integrated into strategy. There should also be open communication. So I think the first one I'll put out there is leadership from the top. And then the second one I'll say is employee engagement and empowerment. Sometimes you have people saddled with the task to maybe do one or two things within the cybersecurity program, but they are not empowered, right? They're not empowered. So employee engagement and empowerment is critical. So with employee engagement, we're looking at security awareness. We're looking at empowerment to report suspicious activity. So when there's an anomaly, can anybody report? Can an intern report? Can where do they even go to without concerns around, okay, if I report, they will question me. There will be some query from my boss. I've had cases where someone is escalating something and the leader in the team queries that person for using the organization's channel for escalating security incidents. So if an anomaly is found out, in another case, this person will not want to report quickly. He will take his time, tell his boss, just take his time really before going to the normal channel. We also need to encourage people, encourage good behavior. So we need to recognize and reward employees who demonstrate some commitment to security best practices. We've seen organizations give vouchers. We've seen organizations, just give awards, and this has really helped the security program. So another way we can build culture is to collaborate and share responsibility. So it's not just a CISO thing or a cybersecurity unit thing.
Yeah.
There has to be that collaboration across teams. So from HR to legal, IT, we need to have that camaraderie across teams. So collaboration is key. And then continuous improvement and learning. I think this one is really important, in answering that question, because there are a lot of things going on now. We have new technologies that are being adopted. There are risks associated with that. We need to start to look at the upskilling part of things. How do we upskill for the future fraud that we might see in our organization, for the future threats that we'll see in our organization? So continuous improvement and learning is important. And then we can also leverage technology and tools to help with, improving. So there are different security awareness platforms that can be used. And then the internal communication tools that can be used to facilitate and promote a strong security culture. I think I'll stop at that.
Okay, interesting. I think I like the bit where you talked about the tone at the top, right? Because most of the time you see that that's where institutions fail, simple things like barging into your access control at the door, you swiping in for somebody to come in, right? Or opening the door for someone who doesn't have an ID card in the organization to come in. Simple things like that. You have instances where for the seniors, certain rules are permissible, with them, but it doesn't apply across board in the institution. So the person at the shop floor is wondering, okay, if the big guy at the top is not doing so and so. Why then do I need to do it? Right? Anthony, you want to say something?
Yeah. The other, this is, I think she Nkiru nailed it on the head. But there are other components that we can also help build a culture, right? I've seen organizations try to embed security objectives in the organization's goals. So you're aligning security goals with business objectives to emphasize the importance, right? So in everybody's KPIs or objective at the beginning of the year, there's a security goal there to ensure that yes, if you meet this, if there's no cyber breach in the organization at this particular whatever period, if I security, if I see if you're in the security domain or you're a risk champion, yes, you have met that particular KPI, right? There are also more aggressive ways of again building culture. So people conduct tabletop exercises, right? To ensure that yes, you play out play out an incident, right? Like a demo incident to see if everybody understands his roles and their roles and responsibility when there's a real incident, just to build that awareness. People have also put phishing into, should I say, KRIs and KPIs, KRIs basically to say how do we measure the progress of people clicking on phishing links, even if we are sending designing phishing emails out there for employees to see if they will click or they will not click, right? Uh, Again, that has been a concern because some organizations say if I design a phishing email and send out to my employees, how do I and if I design a phishing email and send out to my employees, how do I know if this uh, if this is a difficult, should I say, email for people to click on, or it's an easy one? So if I say today, so somebody is sending you a package, click on this particular link, you won't click on the link. But if I say, oh, this is the time of the year you are missing out your security awareness training and all that kind of thing, you might click on that particular link. So what is a strong phishing test to conduct for an organization? That again is still up in the air, but again, you still need to do awareness in that regard and measure in terms of percentage of clicks quarterly or periodically as you feel deem fit within your organization. Clear policies, procedures, and ensuring that it's socialized across the organization is also something that is very key. People should actually acknowledge that they've read a particular policy, not just put a policy on the portal and they say, okay, I've published the policy. They should actually acknowledge that they've actually read the policy and be held liable in case they breach that policy. Just some thoughts.
Okay, Anthony, we are running out of time, but we just have two more questions. But I need you to stay on, Anthony, because I know when we invited you last year, you spoke extensively about third-party risk. And if you look at these emerging risks, you see that third party, which we have batched up with supply chain risks, right? Third-party risk is a sticky issue, and it doesn't seem like it's going away. And it's understandable considering how organizations continue to leverage these services to drive their operations. I was reading an article yesterday, sorry, excuse me. In August, the Metropolitan Police was breached, right? And it was through an IT vendor. Sometime in December, there's a cloud service provider in the US that got hit by ransomware. About 60 credit unions that use their services were impacted, right? Like I said, you had shared some tremendous insights on how institutions can better manage third-party risk. Guys, you can check out that session on YouTube. I wouldn't want Anthony to delve into all of that, but the question here is, it looks like this third-party thing, the breach, is like a time bomb waiting to happen. Like everybody's just go and wait. It will soon be your turn, right? So How can institutions build resilience to minimize the impact, right, when there's a third-party breach? 1 minute, Tony. 1 minute, please.
This again, building resilience, again, there's some foundational components you need to have put in place to ensure you respond to an incident or a breach when it happens or something, basically. Those foundational elements are the things we've mentioned in this particular uh, uh, session, right? First is, do you know where your assets are, right? Do you have complete asset inventory? Do you have visibility of your entire ecosystem? Second, it's not only about knowing where your assets are, what your ecosystem is. Do you have proper asset classification, right? Are you able to classify critical assets, medium assets, low critical assets? Again, that helps you to understand how the impact of the incident should they happen. You have an attack. What asset was impacted? How would you respond? Are you supposed to respond level A in crisis management response, or level B crisis management response? It helps you navigate those difficult waters, right? The third is basically design, right? I'm talking about design. In terms of when you're building your your network, when you're building your ecosystem, is it properly designed? Segmentation, segmentation, is it properly segmented to be able to contain or curtail an incident when it happens, right? Again, defense in depth, a principle, defense in depth. You need to ensure you lay out your controls, right? Again, you're as strong as your weakest link, or you're as strong as your weakest system, right? And you need to ensure that you layer your control. Technology advancement, again, is not a focus, but it's an enabler. It helps you to be able to identify, respond, and quickly recover, right, from an incident, right? So all this put together are basically from building blocks that will help you, or should I say, enable you respond quickly, or respond and recover quickly in the event of a breach, or to minimize the breach.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. I need to crave the indulgence of our panelists. Uh, can we do an extra 10 minutes? Because I know there are questions from the audience that they would love our participants to ask. Panelists, can we do, Dr. Harrison, can we do an extra 10 minutes? Kiro, can we do an extra 10 minutes? Please.
That's fine.
I beg you. Oh, okay. Doctor, it's not possible that we'll have this conversation, we'll end this conversation without discussing AI, right? In your opinion, what are your thoughts around dealing the threats posed by AI? Is Dr. Harrison still with us? Okay.
Yes, I am. Even though I have a meeting starting by 11, but I will see what we can do. Okay, so I would say when it comes to AI, we are going to move into an area of what we say the unknown unknowns, okay? And the known unknowns. You see, AI is going to be very powerful in enabling capabilities, the energizing organizations to achieve a lot of things, okay? But it's also going to create a lot of risk. And we're beginning to see that with deepfakes. I don't know if you are aware, if you put out your audio or video on the internet at any time, okay, your voice can be cloned and reprogrammed, okay? Your picture can be, so you see NK now, and I can take this NK's picture, yeah, program it with her voice and generate an animated session where she can take questions and answer it unknowingly. I mean, with no recourse to her. Okay? Then there's a major risk around bias because, funny enough, AI is what you make it. Okay? So you need to train depending on the model you are using. Okay, you're using the large language, you're using traditional, depending on the model. But you need to train it. So it means that if you bias it, do you understand? It will remain biased. So if you ask what is capital of Nigeria, and you say is Kaduna, for example, and you train it with that information, when anybody asks for that, it will present Kaduna as the response. Okay. There's also the issue of compliance, ethics. If a book is copyrighted and I ask AI to read it for me, it will read it because it has access to it. But am I supposed to have access to it? Do you understand? Is another major issue that we are going to be dealing with. There's issue of transparency, which is consistency of output. Do you understand? If I ask the same question twice, or if I change parameters in the question, is the corresponding answer going to be related? Or is it going to be completely different? So then there's issue of jobs and job creation and job replacement and job transpositions. Okay, what is it going to replace? Is it human AI? Is it going to complement the effort of people? Some of these are things that we're going to be dealing with in the new year. You have seen things that are being created in the metaverse, okay? You've seen things being created today that you can generate any picture you want, create the environment you want, animate it. You can impose a clone voice. So the age of is Photoshop or not Photoshop, I'm looking for whether the head matched or this is no longer there. Look at phishing. AI can actually read all your email and generate an email that will match your pattern of writing email, that will match the topic you want, that will match anything, and people will fall for it. I mean, when I think it was Anthony that was talking about phishing and how crafty it can be. Before now, you can say, okay, look at the domain, look at the English language, look at placement of word, look at correctness of this, but it's no longer there. AI will generate a perfect email for you, and an email that is embedded in the culture of the organization. If, for an example, an email that is sent every quarter, you will read it and send it at the same time. So, but again, what are we going to do? Are we helpless? No, we are not. We are not helpless. Okay, we are not helpless. Just like when we're discussing cloud adoption, first is that you need to step back and grow your knowledge about artificial intelligence. Build processes on its adoption. Create a mechanism to monitor it. Do you know today, as an individual, you can actually deploy an AI system within your ecosystem that can go to HR and read data, that can go to FinCon and read financial data. If no one is monitoring you, you can actually build an institution inside an institution. If AI utilization or leverage is not monitored, you need to make sure that it's ethical. Okay, build ethical, use AI in such a way that is ethical. You need to grow knowledge, okay, both for the implementers and administrators and for the users. You need to grow the right kind of knowledge. In fact, when it comes to knowledge, I always say, focus more on the right kind of knowledge, because when you provide the wrong knowledge, people will exploit it. It's very key. You need to do that, okay? I said you need to have a process for AI adoption and know the use cases you need to deploy it to.
Is it me or have we lost Doctor?
Yeah, we can't hear him anymore.
Oh, hello. Oh, I think we've lost.
Yeah, the audio or something.
Yeah, we've lost audio. We can see you, Doctor, but we've lost. You're muted now.
Can you hear me?
Yes, perfect, perfect.
It's possible someone muted me. So, but where did I trail off? What
Yeah,
did you hear last? So I know where to.
you were talking about the people side from the knowledge
Yes, yes. I
detail.
said, I said, before rushing to adopt AI, know whether you need to improve the knowledge of the people that will be making the decisions.
Right.
Okay. That will come through training, whether structured or unstructured training. Okay. Have a very transparent way of adopting it. Know the use cases you're adopting it for. Today, AI is a solution waiting for problems. I hope everyone understand that. Before, we used to have problems waiting for solutions. AI is a solution waiting for problems. So today, people adopt AI and start asking themselves, what can we use it for? Do you understand? So it has to be problem-led. It's been from Harvard to BCG to everywhere. Your AI adoption has to be problem-led. You must have a problem that you need to solve. Understand how AI will help you solve that, then adopt it. And make sure you encase the use case. You can't say, oh, my organization is the only one not using AI. Let's buy AI first. Let's buy AI-enabled technology. Then we can start asking internal audit, what can AI do for you? You understand? What use case can we have? And this is also a problem with RPA, robotic process automation, which is another level of AI application. Do you understand? So at the end of the day, the fastest is the slowest. Do you understand? Be very slow to the adoption, be very knowledge enabled, and then know what you're using it for and how you will use it. And have a way to monitor and scan your environment to be sure that people are not running AI capabilities within your ecosystem. Thank you. So others can contribute to.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Let me just add something in 30 seconds, Tony. He mentioned compliance, right? And I also see in the chat privacy. Again, that is one of those major concerns about AI. When you adopt AI in your organization, are you taking the data of the organization and putting it out there in the public for the AI to learn with, right? What is the privacy concern you have in your organization regarding AI, utilizing AI? I've seen organizations where they have concerns in terms of they process sensitive data and they're afraid to say we want to adopt any form of AI because they feel that employees will put things in on the tool. For example, ChatGPT even use their organization's name right in there, right? And what does that mean? What is the impact to the organization? So you see in organizations in this part of the world, banks have zero adoption for AI just yet. Again, going back to what Dr. Harrison said, they want to understand, they want to learn before they open their doors to any form of AI. So you see, you can access any form of AI as you're spinning up one AI, as they are they're getting to know that they're blocking that particular service within the organization. They don't want to again avoid data exfiltration, privacy concerns is a major one. And some other organizations within this terrain has also tried to say, let's take slow adoption, right? Let's accept 2 or 3 known AIs, right? Grammarly, for example. Let's start with that, right? And let's change or modify our policies to include acceptable use of AI in our policy. So they've included acceptable use of AI in policies so that people can begin to get that sensitization on the do's and don'ts of AI before they open their doors to even more AI softwares. Thank you.
Fantastic. Okay. Any questions from the audience? I know I saw a hand raised earlier, but it has gone down. I'm very sorry. Can we have questions now before we let our panelists go? Any questions? You want to say something? Maybe just for better coordination, you use the raised hand button so we can call you. Okay, if there are no questions, Nkiru, you want to say something in closing? I don't see any question. Okay, what is okay? Someone is asking,
So
what's the risk of Microsoft AI then?
I wanted to add something before
Okay, please.
maybe
Please
the other
go ahead.
panelists can take that question.
Yeah.
I wanted to say, like, we've talked about the bad side, we've talked about the things that are concerns, we've talked about some recommendations around AI. So we said, we should have clear AI governance policies,
Mhm.
carefully invest in AI tools. We need to upskill for an AI-powered future. That's where I want to focus on. We need to upskill. And I will give this example. I know of organizations, I know of banks, I know of different sectors where they are trying to put up AI and ML security teams. Now, are we ready for that? Are we started to upskill for that? Because while this is also a place where we have concerns, it can also be a place where we can seize opportunities, to become experts within this space, the AI and ML security space. And organizations that have implemented AI and ML security teams have experienced significant benefits. It's helped them to improve risk management. It's helped them to enhance customer service. So it's something that we need to look at. So how do we upskill for an AI-powered future? It's important that we consider strategies like, taking the right trainings, networking, collaborating, being on projects, or looking at online courses that help us upskill in this area. So
Fantastic.
that's what I wanted to add.
Thank you. Thank you. And I think that bit of upskilling is going to be a deliberate act from participants, right? You don't just want to wait for your organization to do that. Now, if that happens, that's a plus for you. But if not, you need to do something. Ogona, you had your hand raised.
Yes, thank you.
Go
Good
ahead.
morning.
Yes,
Yeah.
good morning.
So I wanted to ask what the regulatory landscape will be like in 2024. Because of the advancement in technology and some of the roles that we know the regulator has to play to ensure that organizations implement certain security architecture or initiatives that will help to make the security posture of organizations more robust. So do we see anything happening in that area? And then lastly, on the issue of data privacy, that framework is something that is being unveiled in the Nigerian space. So how do we also think that will play out in 2024? Thank you.
Okay, I'll leave that to Nkiru. You want to say something about that? But let me chip in that from a regulatory standpoint. Often you discover that depending on the industry, you find out that regulators typically play catch up. But if you're in banking, the central bank of yeah, and this is especially for those of us in Nigeria. I know in the UK as well, we have the central bank taking the lead on coming up with policies or regulatory requirements bordering on cybersecurity, right? In Nigeria, if we in the banking industry, you have the CBN cybersecurity framework that kind of provides guidelines on how institutions should run, right? In fact, 3 weeks ago, I saw a fantastic report from the Bank of England, right? Which gave it was a thematic report on a cybersecurity assessment carried out across banks. And they just gave a summary of some of the stuff that they had found out, which institutions needed to take into consideration in 2024 and ensure that those risks were dealt with, because it was more like a reflection of what was happening based on their assessment. It would be nice to see that extended to other clients, right? But I'll allow Nkiru speak to maybe some other industries regarding the regulatory requirements and possibly the privacy framework.
So, around what's happening in Nigeria on AI. So I know that there are talks. I mean, there are some talks with regulators in different spaces, like in the financial space. I know that from if you look at different countries, the regulators take across those countries is to ensure that AI is used ethically. So the regulators are proposing, generative AI specific policies. So, for example, I know that we have in China, they have proposed some rules in China. So the government is trying to review AI chat tools. I know that in Europe, AI Act updates. We see that there's a proposed update there around the Artificial Intelligence Act. So that would cover, the way people use ChatGPT, the ethics around that. And then if you look at organizations, many organizations are started to, just before thinking, before the regulators even come in, they started to do some assessment around the way AI is used internally. So there are policies, but then there should be a framework around how it is used, the different teams that will be involved, from the CISO to the data protection officer, to the chief privacy officer. There are things that, um, everyone has a role to play. So there's a responsible AI framework that can be used. So PwC has one where you have a strategy around it. You look at the controls from governance to compliance and risk management, and then you're working with the developers, you're working with the guys in risk compliance, and everyone is looking at the different practices within their space, safety practices, privacy practices, security practices, sustainability practices, how biases and fairness will be managed internally. So all of this help organizations to meet regulatory requirements even before there are like those strict regulations around AI. So I think that's the update is evolving. In 2024. We will see regulators hammer down on organizations to show at least how they use AI ethically, responsibly.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much, Nkiru. There's a question here that says, is there a way to actually monitor organizational members if organizational members are feeding company sensitive information to AI? What tools can be deployed? What if they use this outside the network? Anthony, you want to say, you want to speak to this?
You cannot, again, if you by virtue of using your internal firewalls to understand AI is deployed within the organization. But say the data in the AI, you're feeding into the AI, how do you want to monitor that, right? And that's the concern. If you put things on ChatGPT, you write directly on ChatGPT, there's no way the organization is able to block what you are, as long as they permit the AI already, then the AI, you are at free will to do whatever you want to do with the tool. So again, the concern is basically like Nkiru mentioned, you need to ensure that you educate the employees by putting things in the policy, building policies and generative AI policy, or including those kind of comments, the generative use of AI in your acceptable use policy. That's what I've seen some organizations do as well. And you try to explain the do's and don'ts, right, to sensitize people on how best to use AI. But if you're unsure in terms of the kind of business you do as an organization, if you're a bank and all that, you really need to be careful in terms of again, this looking at Western Europe, America, if they're very strong on privacy laws, and it's out there. It's not about waiting for a law from the government to say the acceptable use of AI or generative AI. It's about, if you expose my data, are you are going to be under that particular law already published, irrespective of whether it's was from an AI to the public or whatever. So people, organizations are careful to accept, or should I say, to allow the use of AI before to allow the use of AI for their employees. So they need to first of all ensure sensitization and ensure that the organization really needs that particular benefit, that particular the AI that the employees want to use, it has value to the organization. Otherwise, there will be no use for that particular AI within the organization. So it's a give and if it's a give and take thing. You have to understand. You have to do your own risk assessment as an organization to determine whether you want to permit AI or you don't want to permit AI, and what kind of AI you want to permit within the organization based on the benefits again.
Okay. Dr. Harrison, I know you mentioned something earlier about, especially when we were talking about this asset inventory thing, and you provided clarity. You said that it is important that responsibilities have to be clearly defined. There's a question in the chat that says the issue of asset management is crucial as discussed by the panelists, but who and where in an organization should manage the asset, right? From the top of my head, I'm thinking that we need to first start with defining what that asset is before we even start position. But I'll allow you speak to this.
Okay, thank you again. So confirm you can hear me, please.
Yes, we can.
Okay, there's another question discussing asset inventory from asset management. Okay. So let's start from there. Inventory is inventory. Asset management includes asset inventory. That asset management looks at the life cycle of the asset, from procurement to disposition. Okay, so what was procured, who was it assigned to, what is the value of the asset, go to depreciation cycle, then gets to obsolescence, then gets to disposition. That's life cycle. Was the assets we assigned from one person to another? That's all under asset life cycle management, or what we call asset management. Mainly the digital asset inventory, which is of concern with the CIA, the CISO, and a number of other people that are in charge of the digital ecosystem. What is really very important is digital assets. So what I mean, for example, how many systems do I have running so and so version? What are the resources available? What is the CPU? What is the hard disk remaining? Where are these assets located? What is the naming of those assets? Okay, because from the naming you can know where the asset is located. Okay, this is what is important. Never you think that one asset inventory will satisfy all the needs. Recognize first that different functions in the organization require the inventory for different use cases. And I've said it, the financial controls unit needs the inventory for depreciation. I want to know whether asset is fully depreciated. So when you want to do asset disposal, you send them the asset, they will check and look at the book value and other things. Okay, so that's a different use case. People managing BCP, okay, disaster recovery and business continuity require asset inventory for different use cases. They need to look at asset categorization. Well, which one has a DR, which one does not have a DR. If this one fell, can this one pick up? So that's what they're looking at. So look at resiliency and other things. The CISO needs the inventory for a different purpose. You just want to know that it has complete view of all the digital assets. and that those assets are adequately governed in terms of deploying the right security controls. Okay, the CIO needs asset inventory for different purposes. The CIO wants to know whether I have Windows 2003, okay, whether I have Windows 7 in my environment, if I'm going to deploy a technology, will the experience be the same for users? What are my user availability? Do users have the right RAM, the right hard disk on their systems to be able to run the applications that the CIO is deploying? So everybody have a need for the inventory for their own use cases. So you can't discount that. And you will not give a FinCon person a digital asset inventory because it's of no use to him or to the function. But above this, above all these use cases, will now be a centralized asset inventory that encompasses all. Okay, have the detailing of those assets. Okay, have the location, have the classification, have the state, whether offline or online. Okay, that's what is required. That function, depending on the nature of the organization, depending on the size of the organization, whether some organizations do, whether also depending on the deployment mechanism, whether it's centralized or decentralized. Okay, that function can safely sit with operational risk. Okay, it can also safely sit with the CIO, which is almost like the technology king of an organization. Those are the two places I said that it can sit. In some other organizations, depending on the realignment of roles, it can sit with control. Okay, in that case, control plays an independent role by putting together all those assets and capping it as one and maintaining it as the source of truth. And maintaining it as source of truth. Yeah, and maintaining it as source of truth. Do you understand? So depending on the size, the nature of the organization, the aspirations of the organization, whether it's centralized or decentralized, you will definitely have different use cases for asset inventory, but it can be warehoused in one function that will play an independent role, have it holistic, okay, and then become the source of truth. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Doctor. At this point, I want to say a big thank you to our panelists and a big thank you to our participants. Thank you very much for joining, and we hope that the objective of having this conversation has indeed been met. For those of us who may have joined late, I have done a bit of an introduction as to who we are. We are a community of tech risk practitioners in various stages of our careers, and our core objectives is basically supporting each other develop and grow our careers. We aim to raise thought leaders, right? And we achieve this by holding monthly knowledge sharing sessions, serving as a talent pipeline, engaging in meaningful instant messaging conversations on WhatsApp that either support people or grow their knowledge. We have a mentorship program for people who are just branching into tech or looking to make a career change. Our popular mantra is that we rise by lifting others. So I want to say a big thank you for joining. And in the event that you think this community will be beneficial to you, a link will be dropped. The WhatsApp link will be dropped for you to join. You can see our previous work on YouTube. The link to the YouTube channel will also be dropped, and then you can follow us, our page on LinkedIn as well. Thank you very much to everyone. Dr. Harrison, you want any closing remarks?
For people joining from Nigeria, my closing remark will be that 2024 will be a very interesting year, okay? And even though the outlook is there's going to be a difficult year, but I think some of the distractions we had in 2023 will not be there in 2024. One of them being the issues in February, where we had the Naira redesign. The next one being the elections. Okay, and the next one being the exchange rate unification that moved the exchange rate to about 1,000 plus. The next one being the fuel issue and moved. So those ones are non-impute, not non-impute. So everyone needs to position themselves. Okay, there will be a lot of new regulation, especially in the banking industry next year, to be able to curtail and see if they can regain a hold on the economy. We need to position ourselves. Training is key, especially focused training. It is better to predict or observe the direction of things and train yourself accordingly. AI is key. There are a lot of new skills and new capabilities that are out there. Grab the knowledge and position yourself, okay, as we continue to play in this role. It's going to be a very interesting year for everyone, 2024. And I would just to wish everyone compliment of the season. And again, thank Tony for putting this together and adding this opportunity so that people can gain insight and continue to collaborate in this journey of success, okay? So just to thank everyone and wish you a very successful 2024. And until we meet again, bye for now.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much, Nkiru, for joining. Thank you, Sheyi. Thank you, Anthony. And thank you, everyone, for being part of this session. We are very grateful for your time. Right?
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. Have a wonderful 2024.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Okay.